Welcome back. Welcome back to another installment of the Performance Enhancing
Dudes.
I'm Gavin.
I'm Steve.
Push Pull Grow.
Steve Christopher here with SC Sports Performance.
And we're here today to talk to you about a really interesting or widely requested topic, and that is pre-workout, which you might not be able to read due to the small font or print and Steve's handwriting combined. So, pre-workout. We want to kind of run through the basics, what it is, what it does, what to look for, what to avoid. So let's start off, Steve. What is a pre-workout?
So a pre-workout is essentially a supplement that you would take prior to your workout to help improve your performance during the workout. That's a very simplified way of saying it.
So you mean to tell me that pre-workout literally means something that you take before your workout?
It should be.
So
we know of people that take pre-workout at other times of the day.
Wow, that's mind-blowing knowledge for me. So if we're supposed to take it pre-workout, what is the reason? What does it do?
Well, it's going to do a variety of different things. That's a fantastic question there, Davin. The pre-workout, what it's supposed to do is give you a little extra energy for the workout you're about to complete. It is also going to hopefully help you fatigue, or it's going to increase the time until you fatigue in your workout, and a variety of other things that we'll get into, like what is a pump?
A pump?
Or blood flow.
So it's going to reduce the onset of fatigue.
Correct. Or
the rate of onset of fatigue. It's going to increase my energy.
Hopefully.
And then hopefully focus alongside that. And it's going to give us a pump.
Well, hopefully it's also going to give you tingles, right?
Tingles.
Because we have
tingles. Let's get started on
tingles.
Tingles. So the ingredients. So the main things that we see in a pre-workout, we've got creatine, right? Beta-Alanine, caffeine, arginine, and/or one of its byproducts, citrulline, or I should say precursors, not byproducts, citrulline. And those are really the main things, right, that are generally in every pre-workout supplement. And why is that? What is creatine, and what does creatine do for us, Steve?
So starting with creatine, what it's supposed to do for you is it's supposed to, well, taking in a form of creatine is supposed to convert in your body to help increase your body's storage of actual creatine, and it's going to help you get a little bit of an extra anaerobic edge. Maybe get that one extra rep in there, or be able to get a little bit more energy in one sprint. It's not something that's going to make you a better athlete altogether. It's not going to give you a bunch of endurance. It's not going to give you a bunch of power. Really, that extra stored creatine's for one or a couple of reps.
Oh, nice. So if I take a pre-workout consistently, that should increase my creatine, my residual creatine stores, right?
That's a fantastic question.
What if I'm only taking my pre-workout on workout days, 4 or 5 days a week? Does that still work? Because I've read before that there's a loading phase with creatine, and with that loading phase, that should be what, 20 to 25 grams a day approximately for a week or so, 4 or 5 days. And correct me if I'm wrong, most servings of pre-workout contain substantially less than 20 to 25 grams of creatine.
We're going to take a stance here, guys. We're going to say the creatine that you want, there are many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
What creatine form do you want?
Well, personally, I like to save money where possible and not waste my money on crap that's not really backed by science. And I also don't buy into supplement hype. So creatine monohydrate is the way to go, in my opinion. I will admit it's a little gritty, and that may not be for everyone. However, it's about the 10th of cost in terms of best bang for your buck. There's certainly no better creatine form out there.
How much of it do you want? How many grams of creatine monohydrate would make a good dose?
Good dose. Well, generally, the recommended dose is about 3 to 5 grams per day. as a maintenance dose. So most pre-workouts theoretically or ideally should have about that much. However, for a loading phase, you really should not ever take enough pre-workout to load your creatine, because that would probably be very, very uncomfortable and expensive.
Yeah, shoot.
So the loading phase is generally, like I said before, about 20 to 25 grams per day for about 4 to 5 days.
So what we're getting here, guys, is basically if you should buy a standalone creatine product, the amount that's going to be in any pre-workout that you buy, or almost any, is essentially just going to be enough to help you maintain off of what you're already taking in. So if you're taking in that recommended dose of 5 grams a day, that extra 1 to 2 to maybe even 3 grams that you find in your pre-workout is meant just to help you out a little bit to maintain the levels that you're at. So that way you might not have to take that creatine supplement on that day, but I would still definitely recommend to do that every day. Anything else to add about creatine?
I would agree. There is, and so this is one side note, there is some evidence suggesting that creatine improves cognitive performance even at low doses without a loading phase. So in that regard, creatine may offer some benefit in a pre-workout supplement in terms of improving mental performance or focus. So that could be one specific use or application for creatine in a pre-workout. Next up, I think we'd like to talk about the other big one here.
Caffeine?
Caffeine. The other big one here, caffeine, right? So caffeine, if you've seen our previous video, something I'm very passionate about. I think it's one of the most important supplements in the entire fitness and sports performance realm, right there alongside creatine. And it's the primary stimulant you'll see in most pre-workouts. A lot of times you'll see like different versions of it or different formulations that are designed to help you uptake the caffeine or get the most out of the caffeine. But generally speaking, just like creatine, best bang for your buck, pure caffeine anhydrous is the best way to go. There is another form of creatine we kind of briefly discussed earlier amongst ourselves, which we call teacrine. Comes in a couple different brand names, but it's a structurally modified form of caffeine, which personally I actually like pretty well. It's just not as cheap as caffeine anhydrous. So something worth trying or worth looking into if it isn't a pre-workout. It is, I guess, superior to caffeine in some ways. But again, caffeine is the main stimulant. It's the main thing we're getting our energy rush from, which then leads me into the next.
You want to go dosing for caffeine?
Yeah.
We're going to stick with, if you watched our last video on caffeine, we gave you the 3 milligrams to 9 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. But for a pre-workout, to make it simple, anywhere between 100 to 300 milligrams of caffeine is pretty safe.
Right, and that's generally what you'll see in most pre-workouts. And that's why, really, that's the main reason why they put recommendations on serving size and servings per day, and why you shouldn't go ahead and just take 3 scoops when it says max of 1 or max of 2. Because there are real side effects of taking too much caffeine. Again, see our other video, I'm not going to harp on it here. So then the next thing that I think I would kind of want to tie in or lead into following the caffeine is going to be beta-alanine. Steve, can you tell me a little bit about beta-alanine and what that does? I've heard of it, I'm just not entirely sure.
So you walk into the gym, you drink your pre-workout, and then you finally get to your first exercise and you feel all these little tingles on your body. Like the little bugs are crawling out of your skin.
The itchy sensation, that means my pre-workout's kicking in?
Guys, the one thing we want to harp on here, he is much more passionate about it than I am, but that beta-alanine and the tingles that come with it has no real effect on your body. It's not doing anything special for you. It's literally just a mind game is what it is.
So you mean to tell me that they put ingredients in these supplements that don't really have any use or benefit?
It has a use and a benefit, but like
you said the itches don't matter. I thought that's why they put it in there. You mean to tell me that
if you're a bro off the street, then it might mean the world to you.
It means the world to me, Steve.
Oh yeah, you say that.
So if it doesn't, if the itches don't matter, right? If the tingling doesn't matter, which I doubt, because I think that's the most important part of a pre-workout. What does matter? What does the beta-alanine do for us?
So theoretically, what the beta-alanine is supposed to do is increase your aerobic endurance and anaerobic endurance. It's supposed to be an endurance supplement. It's really what it's meant to be. But just like creatine, it's something where you would have to take that every day. And then before this video, we did a bit of research on it, and the recommended dose that you'll always see is that 3.2 grams a day. And we're starting to find out that it doesn't actually do that much for you.
So, beta-alanine is supposed to improve endurance.
Correct.
We've got caffeine, which improves mental
lot of
acuity.
stuff.
Yeah, and all these energy aspects. We've got creatine, which is the most well-researched supplement in existence.
It's more studied than whey protein, just to give you a reference here. It is the most studied supplement on the market.
And then we've got, what did we talk about? Was it arginine, or do we want to talk about citrulline? Let's talk about arginine first, and then we'll lead into citrulline. Back in the early days, when pre-workouts were first hitting the market, L-arginine was the main vasodilator that we saw in these products. L-arginine was kind of one of the most studied vasodilators in the dietary supplement world for years, and that's because L-arginine is a direct precursor to something called nitric oxide. What we've seen happen, though, over the years is people have found better ways to induce that nitric oxide response, especially in the sports performance realm. There has been an advantage to, or some sort of, I guess, drive towards creating a better product, right? And the L-citrulline has actually kind of been what we've shifted towards, or what we've seen the shift towards. You actually won't find arginine in products quite as much anymore, because L-citrulline is a direct precursor to L-arginine, and it actually has a higher rate of bioavailability. So your body uptakes it better, and you'll actually end up with more L-arginine in your system than if you were to take L-arginine itself, which is then going to result in more nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is what we call, it's a endothelial derived relaxing factor. So it's going to essentially cause a relaxation of the endothelial cells in your circulatory system, which is where we have the increased blood flow. And as you can imagine, increased blood flow will increase our performance, because blood is kind of the driving force behind our ability to metabolize. So something that's really interesting, I don't know if you're aware of this, Steve, I know a lot of consumers probably aren't. Nitric oxide itself, while natural and very much a part of our daily life, is actually a pretty potent free radical.
Okay.
And free radicals, if you're unaware, are essentially damaging molecules. They cause damage to our cells and our DNA and protein structures.
What are they known for possibly causing?
Well, what they're known for possibly causing or being indicted in would be cases of cancer, right? Cancer is believed to be, in a lot of cases, the result of free radical damage to the DNA of the cell, and then that cell replicating with damaged DNA. So I believe, and don't quote me here, but I believe there is a direct correlation between the amount of oxidative stress, or free radical stress in the body, and rate of cancer. So nitric oxide can interact with another molecule or free radical known as superoxide, or what I call O2. Basically, when interacting with that, you can convert over to something we call peroxynitrite, which is a very, very hazardous, damaging molecule in the body, which is very, very high oxidative stress. So I guess what I'm coming back to here, and I'm by no means an expert on oncology or even free radicals, but what I'm coming back to here is that the fact that there is very likely a correlation between nitric oxide formulation in the body and free radical stress or oxidative stress, and then in turn, since we know that there is a correlation between free radical stress or oxidative stress in cancer, there may be some logic in assuming that there may be a connection or link there. But again, there's no research that I'm aware of that shows that pre-workouts cause cancer, and I'm not trying to say that. Just something to be aware of. It's kind of interesting thinking about nitric oxide as being this, we think of it as this great muscle building aid, but it's also got kind of a potential downside. So we've touched on that. What other things should we look out for, Steve? I know there are some, we've touched on the things that are important in a pre-workout, but what should we avoid, or what should we...
One blanket thing, like statement that I'll make for what you should avoid in a pre-workout would be, I don't know how to say it, but we're going to say 1,3-dimethyl or other banned ingredients. Because sometimes products will still throw these ingredients in, not at like a major reputable source like a GNC or a vitamin shop, but a lot of other smaller shops or online sources, you can still find a lot of banned ingredients in these pre-workouts, and that'd be something I would definitely look out for.
Right. So I think what Steve's getting at with us here is one of the things that kind of drives the supplement industry is innovation, right? So when companies release a new product or a product that has a new kind of effective ingredients, a lot of times those products take off. If you think back to the early days of pre-workouts, the origin of a product called Jack 3D, it was big. It became popular because they were the first supplement to introduce 1,3-dimethylamylamine, or geranium extract as they call it. And then immediately afterwards you saw other companies starting to incorporate that in their fat burners and their pre-workouts, and it kind of blew up and became big. About a year and a half later, all those things were pulled off the market because 1,3-dimethyl, or DMAA as it's called a lot, was found to have a lot of potential risks, and was implicated in some cases of heart attack. And so coming back to that, we want to kind of be leery of products, or at least be aware of what you're taking in, because just because a product has an effective ingredient doesn't mean it's a safe product. Again, there's no review or required testing that has to be done on these products before they hit the market. So do your own research, make sure that you're comfortable and familiar with the products you're ingesting, because there can be risks. So think about that, the kind of illicit stimulants that come in those products. There are also some extra stimulants that are not banned, or they're still allowed on the market, that you'll see a lot of times kind of coupled in with these pre-workout products. Things like yohimbine or yohimbe, you'll see a lot of times
black pepper extract.
Black pepper extract, which isn't quite to the same level as like a beta-2 agonist, but you'll see, what's the other one, synephrine, or bitter orange extract as it's called a lot. And you notice that a lot of times these things are called some extract from a plant or a fruit to kind of lower your defenses. Because obviously it comes from nature, it's healthy and safe, just like opioids, right?
Gosh, get me a poppy seed muffin real quick.
Yes.
I'm going in.
Or even cobra venom. That's pretty natural, isn't it? Should I ingest cobra venom, Steve? Because it's
well, I read one study that was performed by. I read a study that was performed by legitimate scientists in my head, and it said that if you directly shoot that venom into one of your veins or arteries, if you do that, it has all the anabolic effects.
Right, and it actually builds your immunity, right? So, and that's why someday when I have children, which I'm not going to do, someday when I have my hypothetical children, I'm going to feed them rattlesnake venom for breakfast every day, because I want them to be strong, and I'll make sure that it's GMO free and organically sourced, because that's the dangerous part. And I also don't want them having gluten in their rattlesnake venom, because that would be dangerous. So yeah, no, just on a tangent there.
Another thing we're going to look out for in a pre-workout would be too much caffeine.
Right.
So that is one thing where sometimes that's directly related to you taking too many scoops of the pre-workout, that's how you get into those higher doses.
Right.
So something smart to do is always read that label where it says not only just the ingredient label, but say what the recommended serving is. So it might say start with half a scoop or start with 1 scoop, and you can move up to 2, but every pre-workout's different, and you want to read that label very carefully.
Right, and that's actually a really good point. You know, I was talking earlier about how there are sometimes these illicit substances that are dangerous in products and products that require testing. That doesn't mean supplement companies want you to die. That doesn't mean that they want to hurt you. So in general, it's not good for them if their customers or their consumers are having heart attacks or strokes or you know, other complications. So bear in mind that they will put recommendations on the bottles generally, or the containers, and it's probably within your best interest to take those recommendations seriously because they put them there for a reason. So let's see, we've got that more or less covered. Is there anything else, Steve, that you want to kind of touch on or talk about with pre-workouts?
I think we should do some recommendations.
Okay, yeah, so recommendations. What is your...
Keep in mind, we are not paid by anyone right now or anything. We're both poor. Come on.
Right, so I mean, if someone wants to pay us after we mention their pre-workout, by all means, we'll accept
anything. A free shirt, you know,
Snickers bar,
some steroids,
whatever.
I'm good. Some PEDs. So I'm gonna, for my recommendation, there's a company called Pro Sups, and we'll throw a picture of this product. It's called Dr. Jekyll. Can we like put the picture of
Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
It's not as big as we just made it seem.
But it's a clean pre-workout that actually doesn't have very many ingredients in it, and they stick to the core focus that we kind of went over in this video, being the creatine, beta-alanine, caffeine, L-citrulline, and it's just really clean. It has good doses, and it's priced reasonably. I think it's a good product. That would be my official recommendation.
Yeah, and you know, while I personally wouldn't recommend buying a pre-workout because I think that they're a waste of money, I do have to agree with Steve that after reviewing several, that is probably one of the better ones that I've seen on the market. Coming back to my recommendations, and I think I may have even mentioned this in the caffeine video, but you can buy, well, we'll talk about that in a second. You can buy a bottle of caffeine pills at Walmart. Although I hate Walmart, I don't recommend shopping there. In fact, boycott Walmart. They just have really good pharmacy prices.
Do not boycott Walmart.
Absolutely,
we are not
Walmart.
advocating that.
I am advocating that.
He is not. He is out of control.
So,
make America great again.
Yeah, no. Caffeine. You can buy a bottle of caffeine pills for about $3, $4. I mean, even if you go to GNC or something, you can get a bottle of caffeine pills for under $10. So, caffeine is the primary thing that's yielding a benefit in a pre-workout. That's why you're taking it, it's for energy. If you want to save money and you still want a pre-workout kick, get some caffeine pills. Secondarily, creatine monohydrate, which you can buy for pretty dirt cheap. You can get about 500 servings for $10.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, again, buy some creatine monohydrate, load it correctly, take it correctly, and stack it with your caffeine if you want to. You can also buy free-form amino acids pretty cheaply on a variety of different websites from a variety of different companies. So if you're really concerned about that beta-alanine itchiness, which does nothing, again.
I thought you said it did everything.
Well, it was a sarcasm.
Oh, sarcasm.
Or if you're really, concerned about that vasodilatory effect from the nitric oxide, then you can buy, again, citrulline and beta-alanine by themselves for very, very cheap. And so you could technically make your own pre-workout with, less than $30 and get more than 3 months supply. So keep that in mind. So that would be my recommendation. But if you really want the hype and the shiny bottle and the ominous fluid to keep in your shaker bottle while you're at the gym, so that way people know that you're in the know, then by all means, buy a pre-workout and Dr. Jekyll, if you will. Or this, Steve keeps pointing out this Swollen 3000, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, but he likes to dab a lot when he sees it, so it's clear that he's excited about it. The Swollen 3000 was literally just a drawing that I made.
Oh, no, it was more than a drawing. This represents freedom, the American dream, have you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. The what we call capitalism represents that in a sense that we might, again, formulate our own pre-workout at some point. And I think, ironically, we've decided on a name. So
It's better than NAR pump.
well, I probably.
Oh yeah, shots at bro science.
Bro
Science life.
Yeah, Bro Science Life. Again, I respect Dom Mazzetti and his fictional caricatures.
His channel's ending here soon.
Is it?
Yeah, it's putting it to now.
Well, that's both sad and beautiful at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, guys, I'm Davin. This is Steve. We've talked about a lot of stuff, and now we're done.
So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to put those down in the bottom in the comments section. We're also going to put in a bunch of random stuff. I say random, a bunch of important stuff into the description section of the video, as well as we're probably going to make videos that cover something like creatine, its own video, because there is that much information where we can make a video on it. Same thing, we did it with caffeine. We might do it with nitrates in general, or nitric oxide, something like that. We might have a guest presenter that'll help us with that as well. And just keep in mind, guys, we want to make the videos that you want to see. So you guys tell us what videos you want to see, and we will provide, because we are prostitutes that will do the service for you.
we are prostitutes. And another note while we're here, before we go, just because I almost forgot. If you want us to do a supplement review for you personally, feel free to link that supplement in the comments too, and I can give it a look-see. Steve can give it a look-see and give you some feedback. We're more than happy to do that. So I guess that's all I want to say. We're the Performance Enhancing Dudes, signing out.